welcome to the braincropspodcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Myers, where my mission is to lift and bless people to access their truth. Now, I used to say 100 million people, but in a conversation yesterday on another person's podcast, when I said 100 million people and thought about 100 million people versus the 8 billion currently on the planet, it caused me to reflect on that number. And I am still in reflection, but it needs to be adjusted, because there are so many more people that I desire to have an impact on. So lift and bless people to access their truth. That is the mission, and I will determine the new goal, which will be beyond 100 million people. Today's episode is going to be a tender one and an expansive one. We are diving into the energetics of money, not just the mindset, not just the numbers, but the relationship behind all of it. And this is a really timely podcast to record because I was hosting a 2-day workshop at the beautiful Lake Oconee out in Georgia this past weekend. And the conversation took a very beautiful and rich turn to purpose-driven wealth creation and wealth allocation. And then was a guest on a podcast earlier this week where we were talking all about the energetics behind money and abundance and creating those results that we want in our life. Because what money really is energy, but it's a relationship. So let's start there. Let's soften it into this idea and create a visual. And what I like to suggest is to create a visual of money almost in a silhouette of a person. So if money was a person, okay, and you're standing here looking at money, would money want to be in a relationship with you? And I ask myself this too, would money want to be in a relationship with me? Now, our knee-jerk reaction is to want to say yes, because we want money to want to be in a relationship with us. But you really got to dig underneath that and ask, okay, would it feel respected? Would it feel adored? Would it feel safe and understood? Or would it feel constantly judged and feared and used or avoided? A lot of us haven't ever paused to think about that question, but it's a really critical one to think about. So take a moment, if you would, and bring to mind the healthiest and most energetic relationship in your life. It might be with a grandparent. One of my most cherished relationships was with my grandma, and her earth suit has since expired many years ago, and our relationship is stronger today than it ever was, and it was incredibly strong while she was here. That relationship for me is magnetic. I'm drawn to it. It may for you be a partner who really sees you who you are for who you are. It may be a best friend who loves you unconditionally, someone who just feels like home. Now ask yourself, what draws me to them? What makes me feel that pull? Chances are it's love, it's trust, it's reciprocity, safety, joy, flow. And now we want to consider, how can we bring that same energy to our relationship with money? Because when we relate to money with fear or anxiety or pressure or resentment, we're unknowingly repelling it, just like we would another person. If there's a person in our life that we're constantly fearful of or exhibiting fear around, or our anxiety rises when we're around them and therefore their anxiety rises too, or maybe there's a lot of pressure to perform, pressure to say the right thing, pressure to be something all the time or do something all of the time. If there was resentment, any of these traits, if exhibited with another person in our life, would naturally repel both them and us from the relationship. And when we treat money that way, it does the same thing. But if we treat money like a beloved or a trusted friend, we can actually do the reverse, because money is energy and we are energetic beings. And so we can magnetize the abundance, the wealth, the relationships, the opportunities. We can magnetize anything we want once we understand the energetics behind it. So let's explore the energetics of wealth through that lens. And I made a list of 10 loving truths about money and energy that have come up in conversations over the past few months as I'm working with clients and hosting workshops and being interviewed on podcasts about this same topic. And the first is that money is a mirror. So money is going to reflect our beliefs and our emotions and our patterns, but not our worth. Our worth is not in question. We are all unquestionably worthy of all of the beautiful things that we want, but it will reflect our beliefs about what we can have. It will reflect our emotions behind creating those results and our patterns of behavior and our patterns of emotion. The way that we treat money often echoes the way that we treat ourselves. So if there is an area of opportunity in your life to increase your level of abundance, or said differently, if you've decided that you would like more money in your life than you currently have, chances are there's another area of your life where you would like more of. Maybe you would appreciate all of the parts of you to be heard. Maybe you're ignoring certain parts about you, or not giving a voice to something from your past, not giving a voice to something in your current, not setting a boundary, not eating as healthily as you could, not engaging in the mindfulness activities that help you feel best and most energized and most clarified and aligned. There's probably another area where you're treating yourself that same way, and it's worth taking a look at. In fact, I'd argue that it's a benefit. It's a data point. We have an area of our life that we want something more, money, which means there's probably an area of our life where we need something more from ourselves. The second, and we already touched on this some, but just want to reiterate, money is a relationship. So it needs nurturing, it needs our attention, it needs honesty, and it needs trust. So when we neglect or obsess or fear, we create an imbalance and we block the flow of money that we're otherwise qualified and ready and willing and very, very excited to accept. The third thing is that money is drawn to emotional safety. So just like people, which is why I had you visualize this a second ago, just like people, money stays where it feels safe. Gratitude, calm, and confidence. These are all magnetic frequencies that help circulate the flow of money into your life. And as you keep it moving, it keeps coming back to you, usually multiplied. You've probably experienced this. What you may also have experienced, either yourself or through watching another person, is that some people have the ability to attract money and attract opportunities and attract relationships, but they seem to fall through their fingertips. And that's because there's an underlying energetic or emotional imbalance. So we want to take a look at that and see, okay, is there something that is igniting stress or anxiety or fear or frustration? You know, for many of my clients who grew up in situations where money was hard to come by, hard to make, and very, very stressful in their home, the making of money doesn't make that past association to those emotions go away. What makes the association diminish is by recognizing that they're there and asking ourselves really deep questions about, where did this belief come from? Do I believe this is true? Do I want this to be a part of my story going forward? And by doing, and I'm, brushing right through these, but by getting into the depth of the work involved in some of those types of questions and inquiries, we can really start to dissolve by giving the fear, giving the thought, giving the concern a voice, but then also dissecting it and realizing that actually maybe we have another perspective, or there could be another thing that's true. And what we want for sure going forward is completely different than the truth or the outcome that belief system will offer. The fourth thing that comes up is that money loves purpose. And so this goes back to that workshop that I just mentioned where we started talking about purpose-driven wealth allocation. When money knows where it's going, to bless, to serve, to grow, it moves more freely. And so it's just fine to say, I want to have X amount of money in the bank. That's fine to have that number. But when we really start to define that container, what we're going to do with it, what percentage of it is going to go where, who's going to be impacted by it, how are the people impacted by it going to feel, what is the purpose of this money and this allocation of these funds? When we can get really clear on that container, we can start to create more momentum behind it. And so while X amount of dollars is not a bad goal, X amount of dollars for A, B, and C purpose that's going to impact the world or the community or my loved ones in these ways is so much more clear and so much more compelling. So going back to thinking of money as a person, if you went to a person that you were in a really good relationship with and made a request, whatever that request may be, and you just said, here's my blanket request, I would really like it. They love you. They probably want to honor it. It's also possible that they may have a follow-up question, that they may be curious about why this is important to you or what you intend to do with this result of this request. That's also very reasonable. And even if they didn't ask, if you came to them with a request, hey, here's my request, and here are all of the reasons it's so important to me and the impact it's going to have and how I'm going to feel and how other people are going to feel and the joy it's going to bring the world or the pain it's going to alleviate or the opportunities it's going to create, you naturally are going to create more momentum and more flow in that conversation and probably get a little bit more buy-in than just the blanket request would have given you, even though in both scenarios, the person would probably want to honor your request. One is much more compelling than the other. The fifth thing that's come up is that the universe responds to belief, not desperation. And so, once again, when we think about money as a person, I think about, in this regard, I think about the dating scene and how dating needy people, even if there's nothing else inherently wrong with them, in fact, you guys are probably a good match on many areas. If there's a neediness involved that you can sense in that other person, it's really repelling. It kind of creeps us out. It makes us wonder, what is it that you don't want me to find out? What is it that I'm setting myself up for? Why? Why are you not whole on your own? All of these questions come up. And I'm say that with sensitivity, recognizing that we've probably experienced that from someone else, maybe been the person who is a little needy. All of that is okay. It's all growth. But in a relationship as important as an energetic exchange and creating abundance and flow and prosperity in our lives, we want to recognize that neediness is going to repel that. But trust and openness invites. So how do we demonstrate trust and openness? We do it like we were just talking about before, by getting really clear on what it is we're hoping for, what we want to create in this world, what the impact is going to be, who's going to be impacted by it, how they're going to feel, why this is such a wonderful thing that we're so excited about. And by creating that clarity and creating that momentum and inviting the universe to participate in our creation, we're laying the foundation for a much more trusting and open environment in our relationship with money. And number 6 is you can attract wealth without knowing how. I recognize that what I just said may sound a little bit counterintuitive, so I'm going to say it again. You can attract wealth, and in this podcast we're talking about wealth creation, but you can attract relationships, you can attract opportunities, you can attract whatever it is that you want without knowing how. In fact, I recommend loosening the grip on the how, because we tend to have a lot of ideas. We've thought these things through. We've put a lot of analysis in place and sometimes come to the table with a very detailed plan on not only what we want, who it's going to impact, how it's going to be wonderful, but how we also anticipate these results to fall into place. And that's the piece that doesn't actually require our logic. The quantum field doesn't need our logic. It needs our alignment. And that is an energetic component. That is an emotional frequency that we need to not only get to, but we need to hold. So it's similar to if we were to hop in the car and put on the FM radio and we wanted to hear country music, we for sure wouldn't go to the classical music station because we're not going to catch it there. We're going to have to turn the dial until we get to that country music station in order to hear the country music songs. Well, the quantum field works just like that. In order to get onto and hang out on the frequency of whatever it is we're trying to attract, we need to get into that emotional feeling of it. And so what you can do is go back to that detailed vision of what it is you want and why, and start to feel it as though it's happening now, and really start to discern what is that feeling that's created in my emotional experience, in my field, in my body. What does that feel like? And for as long as you can, stay on that frequency and get back there as frequently as you can if you get off. Number 7 is that gratitude is the gateway. So when we're grateful and saying thank you for what's already here, we open the door for more. Gratitude is like magic for visionaries. And you probably have experienced this in your life, but highly, highly recommend that before you even get out of bed, start making a list of the things that you're grateful for. I do it every single morning. Ooh, I just love the way my pillow feels. Or my comforter is the perfect combination of warm, but with a nice crisp feeling to the texture to the fabric. I love that when I put my feet on the floor, I have wood floors. I love the way that feels. The wood is slightly chilled and my feet just slide right nicely on top of it. I find all of these things that I enjoy and that I'm grateful for. And the reason we're doing that is because our brains are highly advanced technology, and we're programming our brains to look for additional things. It starts to clue in. Okay, you found 3 things you like. You want more things you like. Ooh, look, there's your favorite shirt. It's clean and hanging, ready to wear. Oh, look, there's your favorite washcloth to do your morning wash. All of the things that are enjoyable and available to us. And that helps us get on that frequency of the things that we're still trying to create into our lives. The 8th point that I wrote down is that you don't have to suffer to be worthy of wealth. That is a really old story, that money is hard and you're going to have to work your butt off, and that only certain people are cut out for it, and it's going to be a long ladder to climb. Whatever pain you've associated with attaching or attracting or magnetizing the things that you want in your life, I would just offer the opportunity to question that and ask yourself, is that even my story, first of all, or is that something I picked up through osmosis or through the stories and experiences of the people who raised me or the people that I hung around? Because if you've listened to this point in the podcast, chances are you have a result in your life, maybe a health result, maybe a financial result, a relationship result, an opportunity result. There's a result in your life that you want, and some part of you believes that you can have it, that you can create it. And the reason I know that is you would have already changed this by now if you didn't believe it. And so if any part of you believes that you can have it, I want to offer that you question whether or not it even has to be hard. What if it was easy? What if it was divinely put inside of you so that you could identify you have this desire, and as soon as you're ready and willing to accept it, it's just going to fall right into place. That doesn't mean there's not going to be action, but it will be spiritually aligned action. It'll be inspired action that will lead you nicely to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, to the door. The 9th thing that I wrote down is that wealth is not just money. And this is something I have found to be so true in my life. Wealth is also time and the beauty of incredibly rich relationships. It's inner peace. It's joy. Money is one form of wealth, but it's not the full picture. And I highly recommend that as you're creating that vision and getting really clear on the container that you want to put more money in, that you also take some time to include the energetics, the emotions, the time, the relationships, the inner peace, and the inner temperature that you're going to be experiencing throughout the creation of that result and once it's here. Because one thing that I found to be true is that the energy we circulate as we're moving toward a result is amplified once the result is here. So for example, when there's more money, if you've been fearful all the way through your journey to create that money and, scared you were going to run out, scared it wouldn't be available to you, scared of what that might mean for you and your family, but you've done all the things, one step after another, and built your company or saved your pennies, whatever it was that you did, and now you have more money, it does not make the fear go away. So what we want to do is we want to be very intentional about how we want to feel, what those relationships will look like, how free are we with our time, how much joy do we experience, and does it take really big things to experience joy, or do we find joy in all of the little things and laugh a lot and connect deeply with those around us? Make that a part of the plan, because this is your creation. You're creating your whole experience. It's totally up to you. So don't forget to include all of the things that are important to you in it. And the 10th thing that I wrote down was the most attractive energy for any result that we're trying to create is the realization that we are already whole, the certainty that we're already okay. And when we live our lives that way, and when we love our life the way that it already is, we're able to create the perfect conditions for overflow, because we're not coming from that place of neediness. We're not coming from that place of desperation. We're not coming from that place of fear or anxiety. We're coming from a place of wholeness, where we're at peace, where we hope it comes and we know that it will, and we're okay in the meantime. So let's come back. If your goal is to become magnetic to wealth, to the relationship, to the opportunities, to your desire, we want to ask, how can I be more like that grandparent, like that partner, like that friend toward the vision that I'm holding for my future? Am I being needy, or am I being nurturing? Am I saying it's never enough, or am I pouring love and gratitude and joy into what already is so that I can attract more of what I want? Am I hoarding out of fear that I'll never be able to get more, or am I circulating? Is it in flow? Do I make space for money to move through me, for the relationships to come to me, for the opportunities to come through me and contribute through me and stay in motion? This is not about shame or perfection. It's an invitation to love yourself more deeply, to love your desire more honestly, and to rewrite your relationship with it so that it feels like connection, not control. Because we were never meant to chase money, to chase opportunities, to chase relationships. We were meant to connect with them, to desire them, to partner with them, to use these things as tools for joy and impact and divine alignment with our soul and the universe. So the more that we can soften into that, the more that our desires will feel the pull and come running home to us. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for opening your heart to this conversation. If something in it touched you, I'd invite you to journal about it and talk to your inner child. Talk to your desire, talk to money, talk to those opportunities, talk to the health that you seek, and see what it wants you to know. And if you're ready to explore these conversations more deeply, I'd welcome you to reach out personally and see if one of our communities or even some one-on-one private client work is something that would benefit you as you're moving into your next level of expression. And until next time, I'm sending you love and trust and overflow. It's already yours. I appreciate you joining me for today's episode. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show to help you create the life you truly desire.